Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Srikant Gurukul. Here we are with a new video along with the daily current affairs of VISION IAS. Today onwards we shall make videos on the VISION IAS current affair at a daily basis. In this video we shall discuss the news of the 12th November 2022. Now let's move to the first news, and the first news is that is regarding the delay in appointment of judges. Recently, the Supreme Court of India issued a notice to the Ministry of Law and Justice over delays in appointment of judges. Now, let's see the procedure of appointment of judges in High Courts and Supreme Courts in India. There is a collegium system which recommends to the government for appointment, and the government is bound to accept the collegium's recommendation. Now here let's have a look about the collegium system. It is basically for the appointment and transfer of judges which has evolved through judgments of Supreme Court, that is also known as judges cases, and it consists of the Chief Justice of India and four senior most judges of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court collegium, it is consists of Chief Justice of India and four senior most judges of Supreme Court, and there is also a High Court collegium that is led by the incumbent Chief Justice and two other senior most judges of that court, who sends recommendation to the Supreme Court collegium, and the Supreme Court collegium, the final decision that is taken by the Supreme Court collegium, which is headed by Chief Justice of India and two senior most judges of Supreme Court. The government has only the government's role is very limited here. The government's role is limited, that is to getting an inquiry conducted by the Intelligence Bureau. Here is a very narrow role of the governments in appointment of judges. To address the opaque nature of its procedure and to increase the narrowness of the government's role in appointment of judges of High Courts and Supreme Court, government brought the National Judicial Appointment Commission (NJSC) bill in 2014. However, it was struck down by the Supreme Court. Now let's move. What is the judges cases through which the collegium system evolved? There is a constitutional provision in the articles 124 and 217. It provides that every judge of Supreme Court and High Court shall be appointed by the President after the consultation with the judiciary. Okay, it is a constitutional provision regarding the appointment of the judges of High Courts and Supreme Court. The first judges case, which came in 1981, it ruled that there is consultation was not concurrence. It means that the consultation of the judiciary is not bound upon the government. Okay. Now, in the second judges case, which came in 1993, it introduced the collegium system, that consultation really meant concurrence. It means that now the Supreme Court said that the recommendation of the judiciary is bound upon the government, and the Supreme Court said that the recommendation should be made by the Chief Justice of India in consultation with his two senior most colleagues. Now, in the third judges case, that is in 1998, Supreme Court expanded its collegium to a 5-member body, that is comprising the Chief Justice of India and 4 of his senior most colleagues. and it is the Ministry of Law and Justice who accept the recommendation, who make the decision regarding the appointment and transfer of judges of high courts and Supreme Court. Now let's move to the second news, that is regarding the National Food Security Act, which came into effect from 2013. That is an NFSA, that is National Food Security Act. Why this is in news? Because few days back the Supreme Court had asked the center to undertake a comprehensive exercise to redetermine the NFSA, that is the National Food Security Act 2013 beneficiaries in rural and urban areas. And in reply, the Indian government informed the Supreme Court that per capita income of population that has increased in real terms by 33.4% in 8 years since enactment of the National Food Security Act in 2013. Here are some information regarding the NFSA. It provides the legal entitlement to nearly 2/3 population, okay, and it is based on the census 2011. It provides legal entitlement to nearly 2/3 of the population, that is around 75% in rural areas and 50% in urban areas, to receive highly subsidized food grains. So to provide people a highly subsidized food grains, this act was enacted in 2013. Center provides the beneficiary identification norms, following which the states and union territories are to identify beneficiaries as per the identification norms provided by the center, okay. And it is also the norms is also responsible for the inclusion and both the exclusion of the beneficiary. State-wise coverage, that is ceiling with the national ceiling, that is 81.4 crore beneficiaries of coverage is also determined. There are two categories of beneficiaries under the National Food Security Act, that is the Antodaya Anna Yojana and Priority Household, that is the AAA, that is Antodaya Anna Yojana, and there is also PHH, Priority Households. Every person who is in PHH category, that is a priority household category, he is entitled to receive 5 kg of food grains per month, okay. Who is in priority household category, he is entitled to receive 5 kg of food grains per month. And who is in Antodaya Anna Yojana category, the Antodaya Anna Yojana household gets 35 kg of food grains per month, okay. And the eldest woman of the beneficiary household is considered the head of the family for the purpose of issuing ration card. And the eldest woman, she must be 18 years or above. It also provides for reforms in targeted public distribution system, that is including schemes such as the cash transfers. This is all about the National Food Security Act, okay. Now let's move to the next news, that is regarding the multimodal logistic paths. Recently there is the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways awarded a contract for the setting of multimodal logistic parks near Chennai to offer modern logistic service to domestic and international tariff. It will be used for both domestic and international traffic. Now let's see what is this MMLP or multimodal logistic paths. It is an intermodal freight handling establishment which comprises warehouses, dedicated cold chain facilities, freight terminals, bulk cargo terminal, etc., which optimizes merchandise movement via road, rail, waterway, and air. Okay, and it is the part of the Gati Shakti National Master Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti National Master Plan. And as per this plan, the government is planning to build 35 multimodal logistic paths under the Bharatmala Parijojana, and it is a part of the Prime Minister Gati Shakti National Master Plan. And uh, all the multimodal logistic parks that will be developed as part of design, build, finance, and operate and transfer model. And this will be developed as a part of the DBFOT, that is a design, build, finance, operate and transfer model. Now, what are the significance of the MMLP? Why the government is investing so much in these projects? The main objective or the main objective of the government or the main significance of the multimodal logistic park is to reduce the logistic cost. Generally, in the developed countries like US and Europe, the logistic cost, the logistic expenditure is around 88% of the 8% of their GDP. But in India, the logistic cost is around 14 to 16% of the GDP, and it is huge expenditure. Just to reduce this cost, this expenditure, government is investing so much in these projects. And the second point, that is the diversification of the freight network. In India, about 60% freight is ferried via road. So 60% of the freight network of India, that is road, that is ferried via road, just to diversify the freight network. And others, reduced cost of warehousing and storage, lower overall freight cost, reduced vehicular pollution and congestion, enhanced tracking and traceability of transport consignment, etc. And other initiatives that are taken for the logistics sector, that is the launch of the national logistic, recently government launched the national logistic policy, and there are infrastructure status. Previously the logistic sector does not have the infrastructure status. Now the government assigned the infrastructure status to the logistics sector, and creation of the logistic division in Department of Commerce. There is a logistic division that is in Department of Commerce, and logistic is across different states ranking. There is a leads, that ranking is called leads ranking. And the next news, recently in the COP27, the signatories to the breakthrough agenda, they have mapped out priority actions to be delivered by COP28 climate summit, that is to help make clean technology cheaper and cleaner. Okay, Now, what is this breakthrough agenda? Okay, the breakthrough agenda, it is launched at the COP26, that is by a coalition of about 45 world leaders, and India is also a signatory to this breakthrough agenda. And this agenda provides a framework for countries, businesses and civil society to strengthen their action in key emitting sectors. Now, let's see what is the priority actions. The priority actions that aim to speed up the decarbonization under 5 key sectors. Okay, just to speed up the decarbonization. And what are the 5 key sectors? One, that is power. Second, road transport, steel, hydrogen and agriculture. What are the 5 key sectors? Power sector, road transport sector, steel industry, hydrogen and agriculture. Now, in the agreement, the priority action that include to develop a common definition for low emission and near emission steel, hydrogen and sustainable batteries. Okay, and the next point, that is to ramp up the deployment of essential infrastructure projects. Okay, to speed up the deployment of essential infrastructure project. For the main aim or the main objective is to speed up the decarbonization process and set a common target date to phase out polluting cars and vehicles consistent with the Paris Agreement, to phase out the polluting cars and vehicles. Next point, that is to stimulate global demand for green industrial goods. Okay, and drive investment in agriculture research, development and demonstration. Okay, and these priority actions are being supported by various initiatives. What are those initiatives? That is First Mover Coalition, Climate Investment Funds and Mission Possible Partnership. So what is this First Movers Coalition? It is launched in COP26, that is to help the drive industrial decarbonization, and India is also a member of this coalition. And Climate Investment Fund, it is the largest multilateral climate fund that is focused on the transformational climate innovation in 72 middle and low income countries, and India is also a part of this. And Mission Possible Partnership, it is an alliance of leading climate organization. Okay, so these are various initiatives that are supporting these priority actions. Okay, now let's move to the next news. That is, the news is US keen to deepen India's ties under the friend shoring plan. There is a new word that came, that is a friend shoring. What is this friend shoring? It means to create a supply chain or to insulate global supply chains from external disruptions or economic coercion. Okay, so that is friend shoring. It is pitched by US for the first time, and it means to secure or insulate a secure global supply chains from external disruption or economic cohesion, and it is also we can say this is a part of also deglobalization, because in the globalization process the global supply chain that cannot be insulated from external disruption. Okay, recently the United States Treasury Secretary is the term friendshoring for India. Over the first few years, why this is a need, this friendshoring concept, the friendshoring concept takes place. That is, over the first few days that the world has experienced a series of trade disruption, that is due to the US China trade war, and after that there is COVID-19 pandemic, and after COVID-19 pandemic there is Russia's invasion of Ukraine. These three things that disrupt the global supply chains, and this friend shoring plan, the friend shoring idea, that is for a group of like-minded countries with shared values to deploy policies encouraging companies to spread manufacturing within that group, within a group, secure group. And the sectors that under the importance, which are semiconductor industry, there is also green energy, there is telecommunication and mineral industry. The important sectors are semiconductor industry, green energy, telecommunication and mineral industries. Now let's see what are the significance of this friend shoring. It will prevent nations like China and Russia. It is basically to counter China and to counter Russia from unfairly leveraging their market position in raw materials, technology or products to disrupt the global economy. And it is also for diversifying the global supply chains, that will also help business become more resilient to external shocks like wars, famine, political changes or next pandemic. What are there are also some concern related to the friend shoring. What are those concerns? It considered part of a deglobalization process. In the speedily globalized world, we are going to be part of a deglobalization process, which could see further supply shocks and higher prices in short term and lower growth in long run. This may be resulted into higher prices in short term. Okay, and the poor countries that needing global trade might be excluded from this supply chain. Okay, there are similar other related term, that is offshoring. What is offshoring? Companies cutting cost by shifting manufacturing to countries with cheaper labor. Okay, the companies, they are cutting their costs by shifting manufacturing to countries with a cheaper labor, just like China. In China, the labor cost is very cheap, and all the manufacturing companies are shifted to China, and this is also called the contract manufacturing. Okay, next term, that is reshoring. Countries bringing production back to their home country. Okay, this is called reshoring. What is offshoring? The companies cutting cost by shifting manufacturing to countries with cheaper labor, and the opposite, that is countries bringing production back to their home country. Now let's move to the next news. that is regarding the United Nations Human Rights Commission. There is a universal periodic review of India's human rights record that is underway at the United Nations Human Rights Council. There is a universal periodical review, okay, of India's human rights record. Some members of the United Nations they raised concerns over the issue of Foreign Contribution Regulation Act FCRA 2010 of India, and India's stand is that the activities of the human rights defender journalists etc. should be in conformity with the law of the land. So, and the United Nations member states they are able to review the human rights records of all other member states to improve human rights situation globally, that is through this universal periodic review. And this is carried out by an intergovernmental working group of the United Nations Human Rights Council, and the reviews are that is based on the information provided by the state under the review and reports of the independent human rights experts and groups and other United Nations entities and information from national human rights institution and different NGOs. Okay, so what is their concern? That is the FCRA, that is a Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, that regulates it deals the acceptance and utilization of foreign contribution by individual, association and companies, and the government brought some amendment recently in FCRA. What are those amendments? That is the furnishing of the Aadhaar numbers by the office bearer of the NGOs is mandatory for registration, and all foreign contribution that are to be received in a bank account opened with SBI's main branch in New Delhi. So there is a SBI's main branch in New Delhi. They must have a bank account in that branch to receive a foreign contribution. Certain persons are prohibited to accept any foreign contribution. Who are they? That the election candidates, they cannot receive. Editor or publisher of a newspaper, judges, government servants, member of any legislature and political parties, they cannot receive, they are prohibited to accept the foreign contribution. Okay, there are also so many news, small news. The ninth schedule of the Constitution. What is this ninth schedule of the Constitution? It is the schedule that was added by the first amendment, that is in 1951, to protect the laws included it in from judicial scrutiny. Okay, on the ground of violation of the fundamental right. So, but however, in the IR Kohilo versus State of Tamil Nadu case, the Supreme Court ruled that the laws that cannot escape the basic structure test if inserted into 9th schedule after 1973. Okay, recently why this is in news, because recently the Jharkhand Assembly cleared a bill to increase reservation in vacant government posts and services to 77%. However, the government stated that it will come into force only after the center included in 9th schedule, and it is the task of the center to include or not to include this bill in ninth schedule. But it will be go through the basic structure test. And what is the article why the article 142 is in news? Because the Supreme Court recently exercised its power under article 142. And what is the power? The Supreme Court set free the remaining six convicts of the six convicts in the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. And what is this article 142? Is the enforcement of the decrees and orders of Supreme Court. Okay, so the Supreme Court in its jurisdiction may pass such decree or make such order as is necessary for doing complete justice in any cause or matter pending before it. Any decree or decree so passed in order so made shall be enforceable throughout the territory of India, and in such manner as may be prescribed. And because the Supreme Court's jurisdiction is throughout the territory of India, that's why the decree or order that passed by the Supreme Court, by exercising its power under article 142, it shall be enforceable throughout the territory of India. Okay, now let's see currency monitoring list. What is this currency monitoring list? Why this is in news? Recently, the United States of America's Department of Treasury, they removed India from its currency monitoring list. So, what is this list? This is a level, or this is a list that is given by the US government to countries where the US government feels that if a country that are engaging in unfair currency practices by deliberately devaluing their currency against dollar, and the US government in 2020 thought that India is engaging in unfair currency practices, and it added India in the currency monitoring list, and recently it again removed from its list. An economy that meeting two of the three criteria is placed in the monitoring list. What are the criteria? A significant bilateral trade surplus with US. Okay, a material current account surplus that is equivalent to at least 2% of the GDP over 12 months of the period, and persistent one-sided intervention occurs when net purchases of foreign currency are conducted repeatedly, and if an economy meets two of these three criteria, that economy will be placed on the monitoring list. Now next news, that is the National Financial Reporting Authority. Recently the authority published its audit quality inspection guidelines, that is to improve quality of audit profession. Okay, it is a constitutional authority, National Financial Reporting Authority. It was constituted in 2018 by the government under the Companies Act 2013. Sorry, it is not a constitutional, it is statutory authority, because it is constituted under the Companies Act 2013 and it was constituted in 2018. And who is the chairperson of the NFRA? It is appointed by the central government, and it has a maximum of 15 members. What are the functions and duties of the National Financial Reporting Authority? It recommends accounting and audit policies to be adopted by the companies. It monitor and enforce compliance with accounting standards and audit standards, and it oversee quality of service of the professions associated with ensuring compliance. Okay, now let's see global offshore wind alliance. Okay, recently 9 new countries that is joined the global offshore wind alliance, including Belgium, Colombia, Germany, US and UK. The global offshore wind alliance that will bring together the governments and other stakeholders to accelerate deployment of the offshore wind power, and the main objective is to contribute to achieving a total offshore wind capacity of a minimum 300 gigawatt by 2030 and an installed capacity increase of at least 70 gigawatt per year from 2030. Okay, its objective just to contribute to achieving a total offshore wind capacity. It is initiated by International Renewable Energy Agency IRENA, that is in Denmark, and the Global Wind Energy Council GWEC. It is an international trade association, the Global Wind Energy Council for wind power industry, and India is also a member and part of this council. Next, that is the methane alert and response systems, that is the MARS, methane alert and response system. What is this? Which is launched at the COP27. Recently it was launched at COP27. It is a new satellite based system that will alert the governments, companies and operators about the large methane sources to foster rapid mitigation action. Okay, it will alert the governments, the companies and operators about the large methane sources to foster rapid mitigation action. And here is some data. Methane released by human activities is responsible for around 25% of the anthropogenic climate change. Okay, and it will scale off global efforts to detect and act on major emission sources in transparent manner and accelerate implementation of the global methane pledge. MARS, it is set up as a part of the UNEP International Methane Emission Observatory Strategy, and what is this IMEO, that is a International Methane Emission Observatory Strategy. It aims to catalyze reduction of methane emission, that is starting with fossil fuel sector. Next news, that is a Himalayan grey langur. Okay, so differences in altitude that make Himalayan grey langur to choose between flowers and fruits as food options beyond their staple menu of leaves. And the Himalayan grey langur or the Chamba sacred langur, it is a colovine, that is meaning leaf eating monkey. It is a leaf eating monkey, and it is its IUCN status, that is in endangered. Their threats: fragmentation. What are their threats? Fragmentation, deforestation, persecution and retaliatory killing due to crop raiding and commercial horticulture expansion system. And there are some places that is in news, that is East Timor. Its capital is in Delhi. Recently the ASEAN that has agreed in principle to admit East Timor as the group's 11th member. Recently the East Timor joined the ASEAN group, and East Timor is officially called the Democratic Republic of Timor Leste. Its location, it is Southeast Asia, on the southernmost edge of the Indonesian archipelago and northwest of Australia. It is bordered by Indonesia in west and water bodies, that is Sabu Sea and Timor Sea. Mark the location of the East Timor. Geographical features: it comprises the eastern half of the Timor Island and the western half of which is part of the Indonesia. Its climate is tropical and generally hot and humid, and it is characterized by distinct rainy dry season. Highest point, that is Mount Ramalio, also known as the Mount Tatamilo. Okay, and the personality who is in news, that is the Nadaprabhu Kempegowda. Recently, the Prime Minister unveiled a 108 feet tall bronze statue, that is of the Nadaprabhu Kempegowda in Bengaluru. Who is he? He was a 16th century chieftain of the Vijayanagar Empire and is credited as the founder of the Bengaluru. He is the founder of the Bengaluru, and he is a descendant of Morasu Gowda, who is considered one of the most educated and successful ruler of his time. He is also known to have developed around 1000 lakes in the city to cater drinking and agricultural needs. He built the Bangalore fort and town in 1537, and he is also credited for prohibiting the custom amputation of last two fingers of left hand of the unmarried woman during Bandi Devaru. And the personality leaders, he is a faceted, multilingual and social reformer. And this is it for this session. If you like the video, kindly like, share and subscribe our channel for more such video. Thank you.